Hey guys, Craig McCormick here from DestructivePixels.com, and welcome to another episode of the Q&As. The first Q&A thing that I did went down really well. A lot of you guys seem to really enjoy it. I got a lot of good feedback and actually a lot more comments from it. So let's jump straight in and let me just go and open up the Q&A. Let me go and open up the questions I got from my email. For those curious though, you may notice that this doesn't exactly look like my bedroom in Shanghai, and that's because I'm in Scotland right now. We have a place up here in Scotland. And I'm up here for about 2 and a bit weeks to just shoot photos every day and just build up my portfolio. I managed to get some time away from Shanghai to actually spend some time in some really glorious landscapes rather than, being stuck in the city with the smog and the bad weather. I've just come here for some drizzle, but it's been great. I've really enjoyed it. I've been here a couple of days already, and I've definitely found some worthy shots already. So let's jump straight in and pull up the questions. I got a lot of good questions. Actually, a couple of them are like sort of very similar, so I'm gonna tackle a couple of these all in one. So if your question, I'll mention both people, but it's generally the same question. Like one of the questions here I got was from Matthew Grigg, who I recognize the name. I've seen your comments and likes and stuff like that before and a bunch of stuff. So thank you very much for your email. And it was why did you get into photography and how long have you been taking pictures? And then there was another one from a girl called Alexa Chaparro. I'm going to guess that's your last name. I'm not sure. I don't know how to pronounce it. But her question was, how did you get into photography and make your first steps into buying your first DSLR? And then what lens did you start off with? And how did you save up for the L lenses you have now? So those are kind of like the same sort of two questions. So let me go and answer those all at the same time. How did I get started in photography? It's because I've been doing some sort of art for a long time. For those in the UK, you'll know the GCSEs, basically your grades before you leave high school, effectively, I think is what the equivalent to in the US is. And then I also did my A-levels in art as well, a whole bunch of different art subjects. I did like graphic design, and then I actually did product design, I think it was called at the time. So it was very physical objects, and I played around with a whole bunch of things like painting and spray paint. I did a lot of spray paint stuff in my early years, and I started to mess around with Photoshop and stuff. That's how I ended up getting into Photoshop in the first place, was from actually a design background. And then after I finished kind of high school A-level stuff in the UK, I went on to a college to do a 1-year course. I'm trying to remember, it was a B.Tech, so it's not worth a whole bunch, but I think it's graphic design with a focus on photography or digital design or something. Basically, it was a Photoshop course, and I did photography as well on the side. And that's basically where I picked up more photography stuff. So that's kind of how I got into the art stuff, but photography specifically, it was more, I was just messing around with cameras. I've never really had, up to a point, I never had my own camera. I was always using my parents' camera, because, well, for me at least, I never really had my own until I just kept using my dad's cameras all the time. I would always be taking them and then taking pictures or shooting video of all my friends and us skateboarding and stuff like that. I would shoot lots and lots of video, actually. Back in the day, I was a really big video guy, so I ended up picking up my dad's camera a whole bunch of times, and eventually me and him, I can't remember how the discussion came about, but we just ended up going, okay, well, let's just get you like a decent camera. So the first camera I picked up was actually a birthday present. It was my 18th birthday present, I think. Yeah, I think it was probably my 18th birthday present, and it was a Canon 40D with a Sigma 18-200 lens, and that was the stuff that the guy in the shop in Hong Kong basically recommended. It was a really good mid-range camera. It got me really excited when I found that David Zeiser, the amazing wedding photographer, for a long period of time used the 40D until he upgraded. So that got me really excited. It was a really good, beastie mid-range camera for the time. And the Sigma 18-200, he recommended that to me. I can't remember what he said, but basically I figured out why he recommended it to me. It's because it's a great focal range, like from really wide, 18-200 millimeters is really close, really tight. And it wasn't super expensive, that lens. It was nice and relatively cheap compared to the other ones, like Canon's kind of 18-200 for crop sensor cameras. So that was really good. I used that for years, literally years, because for the first few years up until I was what 20, yeah, just after I turned 21. I was basically a very casual shooter. I was still learning photography and things like that, and I still had Lightroom and things like that, but I was very, very casual. I didn't take it like super serial. I was not the guy trying to get up at 3 in the morning to go do a sunrise shoot and stuff like that. I was very much just a point and shoot kind of guy, just learning the ropes. And that's basically what I spent those early years doing, was learning my camera basically inside out. I got to really know the limits of my 40D, and I still love that camera. It's in I've got a display cabinet in my room, and I have that showing. It's just, I love that camera to bits. I'm never going to get rid of it, but when I started to take this stuff a lot more seriously when would it be now? 2012? Yeah, 2012, when I started to get really into photography. That's when the limits of my 40D started to, I started to notice it a lot more, but I did push it. And to go on to Alexa's question here of what lenses did you start off with? Well, I've already talked about that. It was a Sigma 18-200. And if you are starting off with photography, I would recommend a good zoom telephoto lens, like an 18-200 or whatever you can kind of get. Don't get a super expensive one. I did notice after a while, well, it's not like it got progressively worse. It's just my eye got better at realizing that the Sigma wasn't super sharp, but that's okay. Especially in the beginning, you don't necessarily need something super sharp, because it allowed me to learn, am I a really wide shooter or a really tight photographer? Really zoomed in kind of thing. And you can be both for the most part, but if you ask anybody that does landscape stuff, they kind of lean towards more of the wider side, but they'll zoom in a bit more. But some people go really tight. This is just a generalization. Of course, it's not absolute fact. But it was using that lens for a long period of time, even in landscape stuff, that I learned, or I figured out that I wanted something that was wide but really nice glass. And that's how Alexa's second part of that second question is, how did you save up for the L lens? Well, basically, I figured out that I wanted the 16-35 2 L lens. I rented it a couple of times from lenslocker.co.uk. Yeah, that's their. I love those guys. I think they're just going slightly off topic for anybody in the UK. Try renting from them if you've rented from other places before. I love the packaging it comes in, because other places that I've rented from, it comes in cardboard boxes and it's all taped up and it looks like crap. But the stuff they send in Lens Locker is in a cardboard box, but then inside the cardboard box there is it's a plastic case, with the lid kind of thing. So you take the lid off and then all the stuff is inside. Great way of shipping your stuff. So I rented a 16-35, I think once or twice from them, and I pretty much figured out this is the lens for me. So I bought that lens pretty quick. How did I save up for it? Well, thankfully I had a job. And I just saved up by, just not spending a lot of money. L lenses are expensive. Alexa, I know that. I know you're fairly young. I can kind of figure that out from looking at because I know you followed me on Twitter at one point. I can kind of tell that you're not exactly a full-time employee or somebody, so you will have to save up. But I really recommend just getting something a bit cheaper. Really is all I would recommend. Yeah, just get something. You don't need to get an L lens. Although lenses are probably one of the best things you can buy in order to improve your photography quality, it won't necessarily improve your photographic quality as a photographer. But that's how I ended up saving for the L lenses I have now. I have a full-time job and I just save up my cash. I don't spend a lot of money. I like spending money on things that will get me results, and that's pretty much it. I'm happy to spend money on good quality stuff. That's why I have a lot of expensive stuff, but it's very key points, and I use it for very specific purposes, and I research my stuff before I actually buy it. So I think I kind of covered Matthew's questions here. How did I get into photography and how long I've been doing it? Well, I was doing it casually from 18 to about 21 and a half, if you want to get really specific. I got my 40D around around June, July. My birthday's in July, so I think I got it around then in Hong Kong. Um, so what? That's 18. So that's 2008, and we're now in 2004. So 6 years I've had a camera, but it's really I'm gonna be. I know 6 years sounds, oh wow, 6 years, but it's really only been the last couple of years I've actually gone, okay, I want to really focus on this photography thing, because during those, from 18 to 21 or whatever, I was doing a whole bunch of other stuff. It was merely just another creative outlet in a huge array of creative outlets that I was just experimenting in, because I like experimenting in a lot of different fields. Like, I've done video before, and I'm doing video all over again now because I'm really enjoying that. But I used to do painting with acrylics, on canvas, on woods, on skateboards. I used to do a lot of spray paint stuff, as I said before, stencil work. I love stencil work. A whole bunch of other different weird, I loved building things, and I still do. I just don't get to do it all that often, but a whole bunch of little fun stuff. So yeah, it was really only the last 2 years I started picking up a camera. I actually have an article kind of on the whole sort of the topic of when I started getting really serious about it. There is a bit of a backstory to why I ended up kind of digging my teeth into photography. And it was through a relationship gone sour. Let's just say that. I'll put a link to the article below. It was actually a guest post on, I think, what was at the time it was called Nap UK. It was the UK's Nap Evangelist website, ran by Dave Clayton, who is a super awesome guy. He's the personal assistant of Glyn Dewis, actually. Funny, we always go back to Glyn Dewis. So yeah, he is the personal assistant of Dave Clayton, who they met each other through Scott Kelby. It's a bizarre circle of circumstance. So when they relaunched the Nap UK website last year or something, Dave was like, hey, I want you to be the first guest post because I think you have something very interesting to say, and I want you to talk about why you love Kelby Media. And they were a big part of me kind of getting out of that rut of a sucky place, that bad place you get after a relationship. Mine was kind of, it was a bit sucky, I'll be honest. But through Kelby Media and photography, I kind of got out of that, and that's where I really, I have a bit of an obsessive personality, so I'll dig my teeth into something, and that's what I did with photography, and it turns out I really like it. So hold on, the phone is ringing. Let me get back to you, and I'll cut this up, and it will be like it never happened. And I'm back. Damn electronic telemarketing call center things. So where was I? Yes, the article. I'll put the link in the description below. It was a fun article to write. I was really honored that Dave asked me to be the first guest post on there, so that was pretty cool. Let's see what other questions I have here. So I did Alexa's ones, and I did Matthew's ones. Jay, you sent me in like 3 separate emails. I super appreciate the fact that you have tons of questions for me. You do have a really, the first email you sent to me about computers, I'm actually going to do a separate video on this subject. Maybe, well, I may do your 3 emails in one separate video, maybe in the next one, because no, actually, I tell you what, you actually have one question here I can answer fairly quickly before my time runs out. I've only got another 5 minutes, so what is the lens you use mostly? That's really easy for me to answer. I actually love the 16 to 35 millimeter. I talk about it all the time. I like going wide, but it also gives me the ability to kind of go a bit tighter at 35 millimeters. That's pretty much, that is the sweet spot for me. And fairly recently, I've been talking a lot about focal lengths for some reason in my videos and my vlogs and things like that. So it's weird because I don't necessarily think about focal length all that much. Like, oh, I'm going to go to 25 millimeter. Or, when people talk about compression of wide angle and you have the chromatic aberrations on the sides get worse with wide angle lenses. I don't care about that stuff. But I just found through experimenting over the years that I liked wider stuff. That's why I'm saying, again, to get back to you, Alexa, this is go for a wide telephoto range lens. You don't have to go for like a Canon or a Nikon kind of thing. Just go for something that you can afford. If you can afford if there's not a bigger a big price difference between one of the bigger name ones. So say a Sigma one costs X amount and the Canon one only costs a little bit more, or maybe like $100 more or $200 more, just save up for that money, because that will benefit you a whole lot more in the long run. Actually, now that I actually think about it, I did use as I said, the Sigma 18-200 for a long time, and I liked it, but I did have some problems with it after a while, and I actually went to a family friend's place in Hong Kong. Whenever I go to Hong Kong, I stay with some very, very close friends of mine. I consider them family, and they had a Canon and a 18-200 Canon lens on it. I can't remember the camera. I think I used my camera and the Canon 18-200. And I have to say, I loved it. I thought it was sharp as anything for a telephoto 18-200. So if you do use a Canon, I can highly recommend the Canon 18-200. It is a little bit more expensive. I can't remember what the price is off the top of my head, but I would recommend going for that one if you can afford it. Jay, so yeah, I answered your question. What lens do you use mostly? It is the 16-35, but I do like pulling out the 70-200 occasionally, because that's always, I've got the 70-200 2.8. I saved up a lot for that. I actually bought that as a Christmas present for myself because I wanted something zoom, and I knew I was doing a whole bunch of different projects, and also I want to use it for some video stuff that I have planned. So I love that lens. It's just really heavy, but I do have it with me here, and there's a whole bunch of situations there, like 50% of the shots that I quite like here could very easily be done with the 70-200, and they'll be like beautiful. So I will pull that out occasions. I do have a Canon, nifty 50 1.8 kind of thing. It cost me 80-90 pounds or something. I don't use it a whole bunch, but it's cool for some stuff. But it's always nice to have in your bag, or at least in your kit drawer. I have all my stuff in a drawer, so that's why I call it my kit drawer. But yeah, it's always good to have it, and especially at the price point, just buy one. It's a complete no-brainer. And okay, I'll answer another one of your questions, Jay, because you're sending me all of the emails. What are your thoughts on Leica cameras? People won't like me for this. I think they are overpriced for what they are. They look very pretty, but they're not super awesome camera. I think they're good, very, very competent cameras. I just don't see the point in paying the difference kind of thing. Although saying that, I'm not super versed on Leica cameras. So I know they're quite small. I know they have a good form factor, so that's cool. But again, I don't really have a whole bunch to say on Leica cameras. Sorry. Apart from I just think they're a little bit expensive for what they are. They really try and brand themselves as like really upmarket, and I guess photographers have more money than sense sometimes, so they'll pay it. But I just don't see the added extra value. But you can very easily say that about Apple products, and well, I got a lot of that. And what's your other question here? Oh, what do you think of the Lee little stopper? The 6-stop, which they announced, I think, 6 or 8 weeks ago at this point, and as soon as I saw it, I wanted it. I'll be honest, I was like, oh, that looks so cool! Because I've had situations where a 10-stop is just, it makes your shutter too long. It's frankly just too long. And I'm sure that's what they've run into. People are going, oh, we want something a bit smaller. And that's where the little stopper 6-stop comes in. I've been trying to buy it. I actually spoke to a friend of mine, Chris Nicholson, and he was recommending Wex. It's a company here in the UK. He actually gave me a discount code and everything. But by the time I actually went to go buy the little stopper, in between from him telling me about it and then going to their website, they had already sold out. So go figure. So that was, it's on the back burner, but it's very much on the wait list. So I can't wait to kind of pick one of those up and play around with it. I'm pretty sure, yeah, because it'll be the same size in terms of square as the big stopper. You could stack them together and make 16 stops and go insano long exposure. That would be a cool thing to play around with, actually. You could do some really long stuff. Actually, that would be useful if you're in the middle of the day and your 10-stop it makes it long, but it's just not super long. But yeah, doing a double stack on the 10 and the 6-stop will make it like 16 stops of light. You just have to make sure you're quite zoomed in, otherwise you'll get vignetting. But yeah, okay, I think I'm kind of out of time. Yep, I'm at my 20-minute mark, and I answered a whole bunch of different questions here. I've got Jay, you have a thing about what computer I recommend and everything, but after seeing another message from you that's related to this topic, I actually want to do like a separate video that will probably take like 15-20 minutes. It will be another Q&A video, so you keep out for that. For Q&A number 3, I guess I'll do it then. So that is a pretty big topic because yours is a unique problem. Yours is pretty interesting. So any other guys out there that are watching, stick around for that one. This is going to be an interesting one. And I did get another email from someone else asking about Synology. So I'll maybe be able to answer that in the same next Q&A as well. But if you have any questions out there for all you lovely peoples on the internet, send your questions to questions@destructivepixels.com. I'm sure I'll have a little lower third here for you to show you the email, and it'll also be in the description below as well. So hopefully you've enjoyed this Q&A. I love doing these things. Hopefully you guys keep sending your questions so I can keep answering them and communicate back with you guys, because that's why I love these Q&As. This is why I wanted to do them, is to actually interact with you guys on a much more personal level. You guys can ask me questions and I'll just answer them. Just my general opinion as always. So hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll catch you later.